Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. Today alongside me I have Quinnipiac University President Judy Olian. Hello Judy. So we'll start off today. Last week, or on Friday, you made your announcement you'll be stepping down from your position at the end of the academic year. So when did you make this decision?
Well, thank you, Julia, and I appreciate the Chronicle and Q30 coming and speaking to me at least once a year. I really enjoy that, and I appreciate the voice you have with our students and others. You know, you don't make a decision like this from a job that is really a vocation and your life easily. You think about it, it has such implications for what you're going to do, what your plans are, how you leave the institution, how you leave your team, what impact you've had. So I've been thinking about it for a while, thinking about when the timing would be good. And you know, it's never perfect timing. You want to go out when things are going great, which they are. Sometimes if things are not going well, you want to stay to fix them. That is not the case. And so you leave, but you know there's so much more to do. You have plans for the future. I don't think we're going to be slowing down at all this year. I certainly won't be. We're going to be making plans as if we're continuing forever. And then when the new president comes sometime in the summer, they will have the prerogative to revisit things, because change is always great to have a fresh new set of eyes. The wonderful thing for Quinnipiac as a university is the quality of the leadership across the institution. The management team, the deans, all of the leaders in all of the other functions and units, the department heads, the student leaders, all of that continues, and I think it's really a terrific set of leaders and people, faculty and staff, and students who are passionately committed to the institution. I'm really excited about the future, and I know that the institution will do really, really well. And I'm proud of what we've accomplished.
Talking about the leadership at Quinnipiac and the passionate leadership here, what do you hope to see in your successor?
Well, first of all, the board chooses a successor, and it is really up to them to determine what they're looking for. They are looking for people like you in the hearing sessions, in the open discussions that they're having, in the surveys that they're running, to hear from you what you think is needed. And we have a strategic plan that is continuing, at least for the moment, and that will, I think, shape how the board ultimately thinks about the leadership, what they hear from the people here on the campus, from leaders in the community. So I don't think it's what I think it should be. It really is advancing the future of the institution in a very changing landscape. I mean, we're always getting on a train that has left the station, because things are constantly changing in the environment in which we're living.
So as we know, the board makes this decision ultimately, but is there anything at this point that you can tell us about the process and the search for the next president?
Well, I'm an observer like you. If the board solicits any input from me, I'll gladly give it, but the board is really conducting the search process independently, with a lot of input from stakeholders. So first of all, they've hired a search firm, Spencer Stewart. Since Spencer Stewart is a global search firm that actually hired me too when I was brought here to the institution. A big day is September 9th, when there'll be a lot of listening sessions of the board. The chairman of the board will be here. We'll be meeting with students, faculty, student leaders, faculty leaders, to hear what you think is needed. And they will then, and have been, talking about what they see as the needs for a president in conjunction with the leadership team that is here. Because one of the things that you want to think about when you're looking for leaders is who else and what strengths do they bring in the surrounding team. And we have enormous strengths in our teams of unit leaders, management committee, deans, and you want to look for where the new leader is really unique and value added, as opposed to duplicating already some of the excellence that we have existing already.
So this being your final year as university president, what kind of are your final goals?
You talk about final, it feels much more final than in your question than I feel about it. I'm really not thinking about this as the final year. You know how in a marathon you have many, many laps, and then as you get towards the final laps, you actually accelerate your speed if you can still, if you have it in you, and I hope I have it in me, I feel I have it in me. And we are continuing to develop the distinctions that Quinnipiac stands for. So we just finished a fantastic new residence hall, The Grove, and it isn't your average residence hall, not just in its beauty, but also in what it's trying to achieve in terms of the living learning model. We have a multi-cohort approach built in there with seniors, juniors, sophomores, 100 or so of them as mentors to the 300 or so first years. That is a different model to help people in their transition to the university. The additional 2 buildings that will get completed in May will represent not architectural monuments, but new pedagogy, new ways of teaching, new technological labs, new ways of interacting between the faculty and students and administrators, because we pride ourselves on preparing our students for the marketplace that will be. And so having spaces that mimic the marketplace and prepare people in an advanced way is very important to us. We also talk about the whole person and developing the whole person as a real distinction of Quinnipiac. And this blurring of the lines between living and learning and creating more opportunities for our students to excel, not just professionally and in their academics, but also as a whole person in all of the extracurricular activities that they engage in. We now have 23 club sports, 2 new ones this year, women's hockey and women's basketball. That's another way of stretching the interests of our students and the skills and talents of our students in different ways. 175 clubs now, clubs and organizations. Why? Because their interests, their passions, they are talents that students want to stretch in ways that don't necessarily get reflected in the classroom. So yes, new academic programs, new facilities that enable new forms of interactions between living and learning. We continue to be very involved in the communities in which we live. That's been a priority of ours. And in fact, this week, my team and I, as we do every August, are finalizing our goals for the next year and maybe even 2 years to assure continuity of this tremendous upward momentum that we have.
So talking about these improvements both academically and through the facilities at the university, besides all of this, more on a personal level, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind at Quinnipiac?
Again, that brings home the fact that I will be leaving, which on Friday I talked about, and now I'm just focused on the next year. I hope that I've continued and built on the DNA of this institution, which is a very agile, changing, nimble institution that is very willing to move to where the puck is headed, as the analogy goes. And really, I think one of the great distinctions is our career preparation, the career readiness of our students, and that's because we are nimble and constantly changing. I think we said in the announcement that we've added something like 59 new academic programs and majors over the last 6 years. That's not because we're inventing willy-nilly. it's because the marketplace is changing and needs these kinds of talents and skills of the new entrants into the marketplace. I think another, you call it legacy, another impact I hope I've had is in the leadership of the institution. Change is good. Change will be good also to follow me after 7 years, because people bring new ideas. So virtually the entire leadership team between the management committee and deans and some of the key leaders in other functions have been renewed over the last 6 years. And I think renewal of leadership is a critical feature of an organization that stays with the times and keeps changing, because there is no choice given the accelerating pace of dynamism that surrounds us. That's a second piece. A third piece is that I've worked with our fantastic board, and our board is the board of directors of this institution, and they have been renewed. Their focus has been renewed. We have an enormously productive partnership, and I'm so grateful to them that they have invested in the kinds of bold investments that we've been able to make choices around, and they're going to continue, and that's a great gift to the institution. A fourth is just some of the students we've touched over the years, either as student leaders or just as students who've come to me during office hours and have asked me questions and have asked me to help them in one way or the other. And that individual connection, just like I had when I went to university and somebody touched me and changed my life, I hope that has happened on occasion.
So in your announcement on Friday, you described this year as, quote, sprinting to the finish line. So can you just elaborate on how you plan to put that to action?
Pragmatically, I will not be thinking about the fact that this is my last year, 10 months, 12 months, 14 months, however is necessary, since I'll stay on for the transition to the new president. I have always been proud of and sometimes criticized for the fact that I run pretty fast in terms of the pace that we lead with and change. And our strategic planning will have some audacious goals associated with it. If you see what we accomplished this year with your help and with the help of others is a fantastic entering class, not just the largest class in recent years, but one that has said that Quinnipiac is their first choice institution. 63% of our students said that Quinnipiac was their first choice institution. That has totally changed the energy that you can feel in the hallways. And that happens because this is a village that has collaborated over so many priorities. How we do visits, how we connect with sophomores and juniors, not just seniors in high schools, how our deans and our students recruit the students to tell them the authentic stories of why they should come to Quinnipiac, how we've innovated in programs and certificates that attract students. So I could give you response after response on what else we're going to be doing, but I think it's really continuing this amazing trajectory of improvements that are necessitated to be an excellent institution, not just today or in 5 years, but in 25 years. We have a 10-year capital projects plan that addresses the needs of the different parts of our campuses, the 3 campuses. For example, this year we put in new roofs in Dana and Irma, right? Dana and Irma. The scaffolds were up all summer. And every year we do some major renovations and major changes, just like we did the Commons a few years ago. So the capital projects plan will continue. It's a dynamic plan. If things change around needs, that we need a particular kind of classroom. For example, we built a 200-person nursing classroom just now because we have large nursing classes, and we want to serve the state by doing that. Another goal is to really be a major partner with the state in addressing workforce needs. So is it certificate programs? Is it also adult learning programs that we're developing and hoping to build an adult education center just nearby based on a building that was gifted to us? So we have major plans, but I don't think the plans involve any significant pivot. It's just continuing to accelerate the progress that we have been making all across the board.
So you mentioned that you'll stay on the board through this transition for the next president.
I mentioned that I would stay as president until the next president comes.
So with that, how will you ensure that the University of the Future kind of stays on track during this period of transition?
From my perspective, this isn't a period of transition. This is a year like any other year for Judy and her team and the team of deans. We're not slowing down. As I said to you, my projection is, if anything, we'll accelerate, and I will do everything to make sure that the handoff to the new president is as smooth as possible, giving them all of the space that they need to set up their own goals and their own direction. But of course, to the extent that he or she will be interested, trying to share whatever I've learned over the last 7 years, and whatever, by then it'll be 7 years, and whatever I think could be helpful. But one of the things you have to also respect is the space for the new president to establish themselves as they see their leadership trajectory.
So with the construction of the Grove and the renovation of the rec center, and as well the renovations that we saw in Dana and Irma this summer, will some of the older residence halls on main campus, can they expect to see some newer renovations this year?
We have first of all, the answer is absolutely renovations and what we call deferred maintenance continue every year, to which we allocate significant resources on an annual basis. We don't have any, at the moment, major new building projects, having built the South Quad and then the new Recreation and Wellness Center. But we also continue to focus on upgrading and updating things like classrooms, the new nursing classroom. When we vacate the business school, for example, that is part of our next capital planning phase in terms of what will go in there instead, and that will involve renovation. So on an ongoing basis, and we think in 10-year bites, we will be constantly renovating, and of course the residence halls are part of that plan. You asked about this year. Well, we pace it out over a certain period.
So going back to last year momentarily, the university saw multiple instances of anti-Semitism across campus. This year, how will the university administration work to prevent that?
Those were very sad incidences and troubling. And any incident of hate speech and any kind of hate crime is tragic and inconsistent with our values as an institution, where we accept and laud free speech, but we do not accept violations of our code of conduct, which include insightful speech or any form of speech that evokes hateful symbols, as is the case in some of these anti-Semitic symbols. And whether it's Islamophobia or anti-Semitism or any kind of identity crimes, we will take a strong stance, not just using the code of conduct, but also reminding people of the values we stand for. We established a couple years ago our series of critical conversations across differences. And I was proud of the series this year, and I hope most of our students had occasion to come to at least a couple of those talks. We had an Arab and a Palestinian and an Israeli. We had people from the Republican Party and people from the Democratic Party, or independents like Senator Lieberman, the late Senator Lieberman. He sadly passed away right after that. We had a former governor of Massachusetts, now president of the NCAA, who was a Republican governor in a very democratic state, talking about how do you bridge differences across different points of view, that people are able to listen respectfully, even if the language is fundamentally counter to your beliefs, even if it's offensive, but that you can engage in conversation. We prefer that it's not offensive, but that you actually try to hear, that you try to listen, and try to learn from the other's position before you rebut and or go beyond that. So those are our fundamental values, and I hope they are the underpinning of everything that occurs here at the university. Next year and for years to come, we've become a much more inclusive community over the last few years, as we should have. I am proud that we have a class that is more has more underrepresented minorities than we've had before as entering students. Our Inclusive Excellence program has now grown. It's been fully restaffed and grown relative to where it was before. That's a very critical value for us, to respect different lived experiences, different places that people come from, to learn from them, to become broader and more open-minded, to respect those differences, but never to cross over into the bounds of evoking symbols or language or, God forbid, actions that represent hate and violence.
So going into this summer, as you mentioned, the Office of Inclusive Excellence saw a full restaffing. So what will the university do this year to ensure that the office will continue to grow and campus will continue to become more and more inclusive with this office?
I'm very proud of the kinds of people that have been attracted into the office. Interim Vice President David Freisen has led that restaffing, and we actually added a position there on leadership success across all groups. And we have a variety of programs there that I think are building the success of people who come from very different backgrounds, whether it's the FYI program, the Bobcat Academy, the Sony Leadership Program, the critical conversations across differences. There's never any single factor that accounts for a community's culture. But having multiple touch points, multiple points that mold a culture that I think we have in a building, and now with the people in the Office of Inclusive Excellence, I think we can really invigorate those programs, those touch points, really celebrate the differences in our communities so that there is an appreciation for all that we have here that we can learn from. And as I mentioned, we have the largest entering class of underrepresented minorities. We have stronger retention rates among people from different backgrounds. And I think we're getting stronger as a community because these differences are thriving within us.
Well, yes, definitely molding together that community is so important, especially in today's world. Well, that is all I have for you today, President Olian. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Julia, and I love our conversations, and I hope to have several more over the course of this year.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.